Alright, so this is the Wednesday class that I am not going to be there for. So I'm feeling a little under the weather. I might cough a little bit, and I apologize for such things. Alright, so we're basically going to be covering topology, these things here. Alright, so topology basically refers to the geometric surface characters of a 3D object. Good topology supports three-dimensional form and ample deformation. Basic idea is that it's the wireframe. It's the flow, the grid flow that you generally see, that it both supports the shape well, and also that if the movement of the vertices to create movement and stuff, okay? So when we talk about grid flow, that's just the idea that there's kind of a grid that flows over the model. Typically what you want to do is you want to have it run cross contour and also contour with the model. Just as though, like, if we were going to do, I'm sure you guys have seen this, like on dollar bills and stuff, where you draw around the surface to give it the idea that it has dimensionality. It's basically the same idea, okay? And you want that around the model because obviously, if the line, the edge loops run around the model, then it will support the model well, okay? And so you see here, you can kind of see that these lines run across the forms of the body pretty good, right? You can see kind of that they are, you know, they're going around areas that are around, like around the butt. You can see it goes up and down and around back up to it. So that supports the shape well. If this just went straight down, it wouldn't support the butt as much, right? And so if my character is a male, but if he had breasts, then I would probably want to put an edge loop that flows around this way. But since he doesn't, you know, he's male, I don't really need that as much. Now, you could have a little bit, if he was a stronger, bigger guy and he had big pecs, then yes, I might want to put that in there, but I'm not as concerned about that, okay? So that's grid flow. It just kind of supports the form as well as the deformation. So deformation, basically what I just mean is that we can move our models themselves, but inevitably we want them to be able to flex and twist and shrink and expand. And depending on the type of motion that the character makes, you want to adjust those. So for instance, you're going to have most of the models going to move at particular points of articulation. So like a knee, if you look at here, you can see there's more edge loops right tight in the knee area because that's where it's going to flex, right? You'll see there's a little bit more where the ankle is because the ankle would flex as well. You can see where the elbow is. There's a little bit more geometry there so that it can help support the flexion. Here you can see, because these are going to spread, we put in a little bit more geometry to help support that. Now with the face, we do a little bit something different. And you probably remember, we want the edge loops to go around the orbicularis oculi and the orbicularis oris, so that we can do shapes like this, right? I can go, ooh. You can see how that having a circle supports that sphincter-like motion, right? I can have a smile, eyes up and down. You could scowl. All those shapes are supported by the way that the grid flows. Now, another thing I want to talk about is subdivision modeling. So this is the idea behind it. That obviously when we're modeling stuff, okay? So let's say I got this cube here, right? And it's a glorious cube, and he's in my head apparently. So let's say we put this dude over here. I'll just make it bigger so you can see it. Okay. Now you know if we hit 3, we get a preview of what that would look like, right? If we were to poly smooth it. So let's just take this, and I'll just poly smooth it by hitting this button here. Okay. So you can see it did that, right? So what it does is it basically takes where there was once 1 and makes 4, and then on top of that it also cuts, it has an algorithm that basically smooths out the model. That's why they call it poly smooth. And the higher you do the divisions, the more smooth it will get, so on and so forth. But more or less, this is kind of a preview of that. You can kind of see that this is somewhat similar. Okay, so I'll hit 1, this is 3, 2 is kind of both. It's a hybrid. All right, now inevitably what will end up happening is that if you look at this model, he's a little lower res than what I would really want. If you look at his hands, you can see he's even lower. His hands are lower than the ones we did in class. It's only 4. Inevitably, I'd want to be able to hit 3, right? Or to poly smooth this, so that I could have it look a little bit nicer, right? So I could do something like that. And now he's nice and smooth, because obviously this is too blocky, All right, and you can kind of see the faceting pretty harshly, right? See how you can see the faces here? That's, you know, it's a little too much. I mean, depending on if he was this far away, it's fine, but if you're closer, it's not quite supporting it. Now, there are problems with that, and, you know, various other things that you might want to be able to control a little bit. So, what do I mean by that? So, let's say, for instance, I wanted to make a rounded square shape, like a, I'm trying to think of a good example. Oh, like a phone, right? So if you look at a phone, right, it's more or less kind of a cube. So let's take this, bring it over here. It's more or less kind of a cube, like this, right? However, let's go a little bit wider. It's something like that, right? Maybe a little bit. All right. But it's got rounded edges. Now, if I were to just straight up polysmooth this, it's going to give me this like flat disc, right? So that doesn't really work. So, but what I can do is this. The way that the polysmooth works is that it cuts halfway between each side, and so you end up getting a roundness. So I'll show you what I mean. So watch this. If I go like this, what you're going to see is that, actually, let me just polysmooth it so you can see a little bit better. Come on. And polysmooth. What it's going to do is it's going to go halfway between that line and the next one, and it's going to create this roundness here. And because so here to here, it's going to create a round like that. And then from here all the way to here. So when I go to polysmooth it again, let's do 3. You can see that kind of rounded from there to here, and it rounded all the way from here to here. Okay? So depending on where we put these initial lines, we can kind of control it. So if I wanted, for instance, to make a shape that had rounds on wherever, I would do this. Just use my multi-cut tool. I'm going to hold control. And I'm going to say I want the round to start from like here to go to here, like this. I'm going to hold control where I want it to start. And I'll do it over here as well. Okay. And then here and here. And now what you're going to see is it's going to round basically from there to here when I go to polysmooth it. I'll just go to 3 so you get the idea. Right? And you can see it kind of rounds it out. Now, that isn't actually that good. It's not quite as round as I want. So all I have to do, and I'll just hit 3 so you can see it more dynamically. Right? As I scale these away, it's going to round out from farther away. So, and let me just get rid of these ones so you get a better idea. So if I hit 3, right? Now watch. As I hit this delete. See? You got to hit Control Delete. As I scale these in and hit 3, you're going to see it gets rounder. But as I get closer to the edge, it's going to eventually, well, there you go. It's going to eventually get tighter. But if I go farther away, it gets rounder. Because basically, it's making that algorithm between the two. So in this case, that was not quite as round as I wanted it. So I'm going to go here. And then I'm just going to add, we'll say here and here. And let's see. It's a little bit better. Now, the other problem I'm having is that if you look here, when I do go to polysmooth this, right, we'll say that looks okay. Let's do it twice. Then we'll say that round's okay, but you see it's rounding it across the entirety of it. Now, phones actually are kind of flat. So to do that, I'm going to have to put ones really tight. Now, normally the top is really tight. It's barely curved. So I'm going to go real close, like this, so there isn't as much. And then the bottom has a little bit of a curve, but not like too crazy. So we'll do something like this. And then you'll see, when I go to polysmooth it, that it's got a little bit of a tighter lip there, but it's a little bit more round down here. And now I have something that looks a little bit more like a phone. All right. Now, that's going to be more useful, honestly, when you probably go to model your character. But just so you get kind of the idea. So just, again, to reiterate, when I hit 3, if I put this really close to one edge, it's going to look like a bullet. See what I'm saying? Okay. All right. Delete that. All right. So, how does that matter with our guy or gal? Basically, if you want something to be tighter, you're going to have to add edges that are closer together, because inevitably you're going to animate and rig and everything in your character in this low poly version. But before we go to render, you're going to hit poly smooth so that they're nice and smooth. But we're not going to do that beforehand. We're going to do it at the very end, just before we actually make the film. So there's a couple things that I want you to do. So anyways, that's the subdividing thing. what I want you to do for your assignment is I want you to basically refine the model. And what I mean by that is I want you to, fix the overall look of it so it looks a little bit better, and add geometry where it's necessary. And kind of like if they have clothes, add the clothes. And I'll show you how to do all that, all right? And hair and eyes and that sort of thing. So let me show you. So if I wanted to add clothes, let's say I want to give this guy a t-shirt. What I would do is, let's go ahead and put object X. I'm going to go ahead and put where I wanted the sleeve to go, and that didn't really work anyway. And then, so I'll say, oh, I want it to be there. I'm going to put one edge close and another one, just like that. See how there's two? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the inside edge, and I'm going to make it bigger. This side, and maybe make it a little bit smaller. And I am going to kind of shove it up in here like that, and then voila, it looks like a sleeve. And I can kind of do that everywhere. So let's say I want a shirt line to be here, and then you can go through if you want, and it's weird that it's not like, adjust it so it looks, so it's a little more like how you want your shirt to be, because you can see like right here it would be like, Q. Maybe pull this up a little bit and, make it look like a shirt. And then once I get that line good, I'll just go back here and put another one really close. Like that. And I'll grab this one and we will just expand it a little bit. Like that. And voila, it looks like it has a shirt line. Okay. And I could do that also here, where I could just, again, put, I'm just going to use what I already have here, but I would suggest doing a better job where I'll just expand it a little bit and then pull it up a little bit, and voila. So it looks like he's got a shirt, okay? And you could do other things. If you want to make a pocket or something, I could grab like, I don't know, something like this, and Control E to extrude and scale in a little bit, and then extrude out, and then, pull it out so it looks like a pocket or something. I don't know. You could do all sorts of stuff, okay? But that's kind of an easy way to make, shirts and pants and shoes and that sort of thing. Okay. Now the other thing, so that's that stuff that looks like a thing. The other thing you're going to want to do is hair. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate my guy. Okay. So I just hit Control D. I'm going to bring this guy over. All right. And I'm going to go to the modeling toolkit and Object X. And let's just see. It's just not doing. Check why. Why is it not? Stuff never works. All right. Anyway, imagine that this worked for some reason. So what I would do is I would draw the line where I want the hair to be. We're just gonna do hair as a shape. There's better ways of doing it, but I don't want to go through it all. So I'm just gonna kind of use the multi-cut tool, but instead of holding Control, I'm just gonna literally kind of draw it just how I want it to look. So go all the way around like so, and picture that I did a good job. I know it's not easy. Yeah, I'm just gonna call that good. And then what you're gonna want to do is Q, go like this. I'm gonna hold tab, and I'm gonna kind of go into here. And tab. Okay, I didn't really want to grab edges like so, and then I'm set delete, and then I'll grab this. Okay, apparently I want faces, but I'm just gonna grab the faces I don't want. Okay, and I messed up on the back here, but I don't really care because I'm just showing you. Okay, I'm gonna grab all the faces that I'm not looking to make into hair. Alright, like so. He looks amazing. Imagine I did a good job, if you can. Then I'm going to double click on this since it's not attached and hit delete. I'll take this guy, go to my channel box, and I'm going to zero his translate back out. And that's awesome. That didn't go back to where I thought it would. I'd put this back on his head. Okay. So now we have like a scalp, and then I'm just going to extrude it out, hit extrude, and kind of pull it out. Like so, and he looks awesome. Looks like Dumb and Dumber. But then from here, and even beforehand, if you want, you can draw lines. You can kind of adjust this geometry to make your hair kind of thing. Okay, so it looks like Sia or something. I don't know. He looks like something. But that can work for other things too, if there's other things you want to make. But for hair, that's a kind of a quick and dirty way of making hair. So yeah, there's that. You should probably make eyeballs. So just take a sphere, like so, rotate it inwards, 90 degrees. So that'd be a 90 on this one, 90, right? And then I'm just gonna take it and put it where it should go, which is roughly here, and scale it like this. All right, so that it's just kind of in there, and then afterwards you can model your, which you might have to, you can model your guy around the eyeball to make sure it fits okay. All right, so there's an eyeball. Now the last thing I would be concerned about, so we kind of refine the model, make sure it looks okay, then add clothes, then add hair, then add an eyeball, which is just a sphere. Just turn it to the side like this. Okay. The last thing to do is this. So remember before I said eventually you're going to want to just hit poly smooth. If I hit poly smooth on this, you're going to see that the shirt and stuff kind of gets rounded, and you lose a bit of it looking like a t-shirt. So you want to do is any edge that you want to be hard, you have to add an extra edge loop onto. So this sleeve, I got to put one here, and I got to put one here. So on this inside edge and outside edge. And now when I go to poly smooth this, you'll see it keeps a much harder edge. You see that? Same thing here. So like you see how like it kind of rounded out. Let's just do that again. So if you look, see how it's kind of doesn't look quite right. All you have to do is use this. I'm gonna hold Control, make a really tight one here, and a really tight one here. Not like that. Like that. And then when I go to poly smooth it, you'll see, don't poly smooth it. You just want to have it ready to be poly smooth. You'll see that it's nice and tight. Okay. So you can add that if you need to make something sharper. Just add, insert more edge loops. All right, but leave it low poly like this. And that is it. So your model should be more or less done, minus UVs. But the actual model itself, you should have a complete character by next class. If you have any issues, just feel free to email me. I'll try to get back to you as best as I can. All right, go team.